Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to show you guys a very simple concept, which is I believe is a very powerful concept in LWC. That is the use of components inside another component. So most of the time, you might be, dealing with a scenario where you have, a big container component, and then you're gonna, stack up a different components inside that component, and based on the output from, one component, you're gonna pass the value to another component. So if it sounds a bit confusing, in simple terms, you will be designing LWC in a modular form, right? I mean, you have, say, for instance, a parent component and you have a child component, and you want to use the child component inside the parent component. Or let's say you wanted to build a functionality, right? Like, for instance, you wanted to build a page using LWC where and each page and that page contains, say, 4 sections, and each section responsible for doing something else, right? The first section might be getting a data from an integration, or second section might be displaying the data what you got from integration in a different way, and the third section might be using something else, right? So normally what you do is that you have a container LWC frame, right? And then inside the container you put different components. So I'm going to show you very, very, very simple example today. The reason why I wanted to start this, because I wanted to explain you guys an observable design pattern over the course of time. But without you understand this concept, it makes it very difficult for you to understand it, right? So the first thing first, right? What I've done, I created a very two simple component. So one is I call this a parent component, one I call this a child component. So I called it as an observable parent. So the reason why I called this an observable parent, I wanted to extend this component to show you how observable pattern works. So not in this episode, in the future episode, right? So this is pretty simple code. Let's look at the child component, right? Because I wanted to use the child component inside the parent component. So child component is pretty simple. So I have a pretty basic template, h2 tag, which is called child component, and this is the message which I'll be getting it. Okay, and so JavaScript code is just an API message, right? So API decorator. You can, yeah. So nothing much going on here, right? It's just a whatever message you get here, you're gonna display it, right? Now, where this component gonna get the message? You're gonna get it from the parent component. Now, how exactly that gonna work? It's pretty straightforward. So I go to the parent HTML. So I have this, h1 tag that says the name of, and then if you notice, right, I'm using this C observable child, and with a very weird syntax, right? So this is the normal way you normally use when you wanted to refer a component, um, any other component. So you start with the C, then a hyphen, right? Sorry, the dash, and then the name of um, uh, the child component. And if wherever you have a capital letter, right, you need to put the dash and make it as a tiny. So for instance, here I have child as child, right? So before the C capital, I just put the dash. Uh, yeah, and then made it as C smaller. Now, if I have something called observable child component, if I had a C for component in the uppercase, so I will do after child dash, then the C and the component, everything in the lowercase. So that's the syntax, you need to follow. So this is how you normally use it. And what I'm doing is that, hey, I'm passing the message to this component, this observable child component, from the parent component. And from where I'll be getting this message, it's pretty simple. So I go to the parent. So I'm just hard coding the message just to show you a demo how it looks like, right? So a handle send is the on-click event. So when a user clicks on click, so this variable get populated with hello.parent, and then that will send that message will be replicated in the child. Okay, let me show you a very tiny example, right? So this is the message. So I'll do send. You see, hello from a parent. Yeah. So now Okay, child component, parent component. You must be thinking why this is, right? So the child component comes from here, this guy. So if you don't want it, I'll just change it. So I know you must be thinking it's pretty basic, right? Why this guy teaching the pretty basic? Well, you'll be surprised. I've seen people making mistakes with the basic stuff. So I just wanted to make sure you understand it before we go with the fancy stuff, right? Fancy stuff will can come later. So as long as you understand the basic stuff, then you can build on top of it. And like I said, right, and if an admin is watching this, show or this specific episode, they won't be able to understand. They won't know what the heck I'm talking about if I start talking about observable pattern, how one parent can broadcast a message and child will receive it, or you can have 50 child components, and you start broadcasting it, that kind of stuff. But okay, so the H1 tag is gone. Now I click on it. So yeah, so I have done a lot of similar implementation when I was building LWC. I mean, not this ugly looking for sure, but I'm just giving you a context where I have to put where I built a container component where I have to put like 8 components, subcomponents. I have to worry about the performance. I have to do a lot of things, right? It was a complex project because I have to get the stuff from integration, and that integration, get displayed in one section, and in another section, you're allowed to modify certain part of it, and then when you press it, it just goes back to the first section and do different. So I have to use some kind of broadcasting stuff as well. So it was a very complex stuff. I built that last year for the company I work for at this stage. So yeah, and so that's one of the thing you can do, right? You can pretty much, it's like you're making your LWC. It's a component based model, right? You're making in a component base, right? So you have one component for doing something, another component for doing something. You can stack it up in a container component. So that's the thing I wanted to discuss today. Just to give you an idea, just to get you guys excited, right? So that we can, when we discuss observable pattern, make all sense, right? Okay, so that's pretty much I wanted to cover in this episode. I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday. Adios.